Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Cameron Dobbs and I am the co-founder along with my sweet mother as well as the host of this podcast, y'all. This brand Play Where Your Feet Are is so much more than just a podcast though. We got our second book coming out this year. We also have merchandise, camps, clinics, retreats. I'm blanking on everything we have because we have so much, but y'all, this brand is amazing and encompasses a lot of different things. And it's all about playing where our feet are, and everything within the business does just that, encouraging us to do just that. So to make sure that in every position we're in, we are finding purpose and impact, and to not just take up space, but to actually take advantage of the opportunities at hand. So this podcast, we help do that. And today's episode in part 1 that just happened and part 2 that this now episode is, we're doing a fun spin on that. So we're talking about play where your feet are, of course, but in the sense of relationships. And to do that, I am joined by my boyfriend, Alonso Castillo. He is on the pod today, once again, continuing part 2 of our story. So y'all just finished listening to the backstory in part 1. Definitely listen if you haven't done so already. Now we're going into part 2. So without further ado, here is the rest of the story, how it all happened starting in 2024. Literally 1 year ago. Crazy. This is the PWYFA Play Where Your Feet Are podcast, and I'm your host, Cameron Dobbs. Went into 2024, right?
You're going to 2024, you go to Passion.
I go to Passion. Once again, if you don't know that story, extremely pivotal.
Extremely pivotal.
And I would go listen to that episode because that has more in depth. But long story short, I was given this ring, very much got more like confirmation over the whole, ended my year being like, oh, I'm actually so content being single. And now I get this ring from a stranger at Passion. And it's like, oh, this is the ring I was going for all along. It wasn't an engagement ring. It was this ring, my purity ring. And also just like how I got, like, as cliche as it sounds and is maybe, it's like God's the number one man in your life. And if God's the only man in my life the rest of my life, that's the only thing that matters. And like, I don't need another guy. And so I was like so fired up just being single, and like I saw the previously mentioned guy at this place, and it was very much even more confirmation of like, wow, God, thank you, God, that that's out of the picture. Like so much just like literally insane. And I'll maybe eventually share more on that story down the road because that's actually crazy how that happened. But it was just very much just like I exited Passion being like, single Cameron Dobbs is so excited to be single and fired up and just like so much vision on my life for what's God's going to do in community, in church. I had made the decision to switch from Metro to VU and was just really fired up about my year. Like I knew I had a job switch coming. I had so many new things coming in the year and I was really excited to fully dive into those with like no distraction and just full commitment to God and all this stuff. So then I come back from Passion. We record said podcast, and we recorded that on a Friday night. Are you ready to go into this?
Ready.
Okay. This is when it really gets... This is going to be so long. I'm so sorry, but y'all wanted the whole story, so this is it. So we'll go into the podcast we're recording. Record the podcast with Kay. You can hear the podcast with Kay. It's launched. We do all that. You hear everything I say. Single, 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 all the stuff. By no means was I like, no men forever. Like, I wasn't being like, whatever. I was just, that wasn't where my mind was at. That's not where my focus was at. And so for the first time, I was like, it's not like a, oh, not now. It's like a, actually not ever. I'm good. But it was also, it was surrender. It was surrender more than anything. So it was like, God, your plan. Once again, everything I tried to plan my whole life is not working out. And so your plan, God, whatever you take with it, like, you do whatever, because I am no longer in the driver's seat. Like, I don't even want to try. I am sick and tired of me trying and failing and doing it in my will. It's your will. Like, take it. And so then do the podcast, and I go to sleep that night. And I think I'm going to share this because it was so pivotal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And I tell it with people if they ask me in person. So I go to bed that night. And I believe in my life, God has spoken to me in like 4 dreams. Now, the dreams are not anything crazy. It's not God in the flesh. It's not a loud booming voice, nothing like that. It's just little like God winks that catch my attention and make me like, interesting.
enough to take note of them.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'd had like 3 before this moment. And then I go to bed that night and I have this dream. And obviously you're hearing us talk about like us a lot. But again, to put it in perspective, the year before, I had seen this man like 5 times the whole year. Once again, he was not on my mind. If anything, I had full confirmation that I was not on his mind. And I was chilling. And I was also so excited about being single and everything. So like, he was not at all in my life. At all. I would not even really say we were close friends at this time, just because we weren't in proximity, we weren't sharing things, like we weren't sharing life, we weren't doing life together. So again, great guy, but we weren't in each other's lives. And so I go to sleep that night, I have this dream, and I'm talking to Kay in the dream, and she's just like very naturally in our kitchen, she's just talking, and she's like, Cam, you should give Eli a shot. Like, you should go out with Eli and just like see what happens. And she was kind of like defending Eli and like why I should do this, and
Shout out Kay.
Shout out Kay. And just like saying this stuff. And I wake up and I'm like, that's weird. Like, how out of the blue? Absolutely out of the blue. And so I like grab my prayer journal and I like write it down, and I'm like, hey God, I had a dream last night that Kay told me I should give Eli a chance.
Maybe he is that guy.
That's random. Amen. Put that aside. And I go about my day. And I'm like, that's just weird. It's weird. It was so out of the blue. Like, so extremely out of the blue. And maybe that's why it caught my attention so much. Because I'm like, interesting. So I go about my day. And Kay texts me after a while. And she's like, Cam, like thinking about having some people over for the game. It's NFL playoff season. Is that okay? And I'm like, yes, of course. We host people all the time. People are always over watching games. I love watching games. Let's do it. Who are you thinking? I'm thinking she's going to say, like, the girls, like, her close friends, like, you know, the other people we have over all the time. And she's like, oh, Pran and Eli. And I'm like, that's not adding up, because it's actually perfectly adding up, and it makes no sense. So I don't tell Kay anything, by the way. Kay has no idea about this dream. And so I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good. And they come over, and the whole time I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is going on, God? Like, what in the world? So they come over, whatever, it's great. We watch the football game. We're all still pretty awake. Like, we all stay up late all the time. So we are just sitting there, and Pran's like, oh, like, let's watch a movie. Like, I watched this really good movie. Let's throw it on. So it's some, like, rom-com he throws on. And if you knew our house beforehand, we have a green couch. It's not the biggest of couches. This one we're sitting on now is 9 feet long. The other one was, like, half of that. And so it's pretty all snug, like 4 people on the couch, pretty snug, pretty together, close, you know, in proximity. The whole night, I remember like, you had like your right side kind of like on my left side as we were like laying down, as we like reenact the night. And I was okay. I was comfortable with it. And that, again, wheels were just turning the whole night in my mind. Like, what? I was not present whatsoever. I was not playing where my feet are whatsoever. I was just like thinking out of body experience the whole time. And so I'm like, I'm kind of comfortable with this. Like, why? Why am I comfortable with this? Like, this is weird. And so, whatever. I was fine. I was chilling. Keynote in the story. I tell everyone, we were all under individual blankets. This is a very innocent scene. Very innocent scene. We all love the Lord. We pursue him holy and righteous and all the things. Very innocent evening. We're all under individual blankets, and all of a sudden, all of a sudden, I just feel a hand reach under my blanket, grab my hand, and hold my hand. And I'm like, what
Froze her.
Absolutely froze.
Froze.
And I'm sitting there, like, if you're the TV, this is, by the way, if you're not watching, you're missing out. So he's holding my hand, I'm like leaned back like this, and I'm
just like chilling.
And I'm like deer in the headlights.
I'm like literally him.
And I'm literally scared. And so I'm like deer in the headlights staring at the TV thinking, what am I going to do? How will I get out of this? I don't know what just happened.
You're like completely overthinking.
Friend zone just got obliterated, by the way. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not looking at him. I'm looking straight at this TV. I'm also not going to make a single move of my body because I don't want those two over there, Kay and Paran, thinking that this is something that's been going on. This is news to me, guys. Like, I did not ask for this. I was not ready for this.
It's been a long time coming.
Sure. And so I just don't know what to do with myself. So this happened. This proceeded to be like, what, 10 minutes? 10 minutes? We don't really know.
Minutes.
Felt like a century in my mind.
It was great.
And I was dying inside the whole time. And so I'm just staring forward. Literally have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. No idea what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Pran gets up and goes to the bathroom. And I'm like, thank God, a reason to move. And so I like release. And then I go and pick up, actually it was this water bottle. I go and pick up this water bottle. And I just hold it against my chest like this the rest of the evening, and I still don't look at him, and I look forward, and we watch the movie, and that was that.
And I left.
And then, let me take a sip, actually. And then the boys left. And this is actually, and I've been thinking about this more and more, how this is funny, I think that this happens. So the boys leave. This is going to be so long, guys. This is so long. This is going to be like 3-part episodes.
Like an hour?
We're definitely in like an hour and a half, and we're still telling our story.
Oh, gosh.
It's almost
Part
4
2.
p.m.
Here we go.
Okay. So, this is going to be like part 1 up until this point, and then like part 2, like us actually dating, and then part 3 is going to be like all the things. Sorry, it was so long. So, we go into, anyway, he leaves. I am uneasy in the home, and Kay's like doing dishes at the sink. And I remember she's like doing dishes, not even looking at me, and she's like, did Eli make a move? Or like, did Eli do anything? Or did Eli try to pull something? Or like said something along those lines. And I was like, yeah, he did. And I just remember it clear as day. What? Like turns around from doing the dishes. And I was like, yeah, he held my hand. And I know to society and maybe to people that are listening are like, dude, he held your hand. Like, this is nothing. Now, for perspective, 1, I don't think it's nothing. I think it's pretty intimate. 2 is I've held one guy's hand in my entire life, and it was 5 years before this moment. And so this was a little something new. I don't do this. I rarely even go on dates with guys. And then I definitely don't go holding people's hands. And so I was just like, whatever. Also, what was going in my mind was the night before, in the exact same spot on the couch, I was on the podcast talking about being single, talking about everything I just learned, talking about my year of prepare, and now how it went from, an engagement ring to now this ring, and God and priority and all things. And so I'm thinking, this is now God. Well, this is now the devil being like, oh, the minute you get content with God, let me throw a test in here. Let me see how committed you really are. Let's throw a distraction and see how you handle it. So I was like, it's either the devil or it's God being like, the minute you fully surrender and submit and declare it publicly at that point, here is him. And so I was just completely confused, to be quite honest. So confused. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know. It was weird because I was now feeling something maybe, and that was weird. And it was weird that I was comfortable, and it was weird that I was kind of into it, and I didn't know. I was so confused and like this. Like I was just like, I don't know what the heck is going on. And yeah, and I was like, well, that's great. These are great things to start off my year. Not at all how I imagined it. And then that night, well, I guess, I don't know. You should probably go on your perspective now. So
yeah.
What was in your mind to do this in the first place?
Yeah. So again, like the whole, I have nothing to lose, but also, I mean, I didn't just think that, but it was also very innocent for me. Like I went in there thinking, hey, we're just going to go, see a football game.
You had no, like, you didn't come in
there wasn't an
planning to make
agenda
a
or
move.
anything, but I definitely was like, again, there's always that subtle thought behind of like, I don't have anything to lose. It's Cameron. Like I've always thought the world of her. So obviously that's just, again, it's there, but it's not one of those things that's like overpowering my thoughts. So we went in there, watched the game. Great. Again, we're kind of snuggled up. We're chilling. We're comfortable. And then I remember that moment, clear as day. I was like, I wasn't, at this moment, I wasn't even like watching the movie anymore. I was just going through scenarios in my head. I was just like, let's see what guys think about it. I was literally like, if I hold your hand right now, like 10 seconds, either she's going to think I'm super gross and be like, ew, like, why are you holding my hand? Or B, be like, hey, kind of down. And I was like, I have nothing to lose right now.
Yeah.
Literally what I was thinking in my head. I was like, count myself down. Counted myself down. Was pretty smooth about it too. Went under her blanket, grabbed her hand, froze her, and that's it.
The rest
Got
is
her.
history.
But yeah, I did that, and then shortly after, obviously, I held your hand. We left. Obviously, shortly after that, I sent her a message, just to clarify, like, hey, just don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Wanted to let you know that I'm sorry if I did, and if I never want to make you feel uncomfortable. So if I did, I'm sorry. So I wanted to apologize. I think I maybe said a few other things, but that was probably just the emphasis on like making you feel. If I read the room wrong, I'm so sorry. If I was anything remotely making you feel uncomfortable, I was like, I wanted to take that away. I did not. That's not my intention. Again, felt comfortable. I was like, hey, why not? And yeah, just kind of went for it, right?
Yeah.
And again, this comes with, I know Cam. I know that she's definitely never, held another guy's hand. So again, I knew kind of sort of what her reaction would be, but also I've known her for such a long time. So again, it wasn't like I was, I don't know. It wasn't out of the ordinary for me to try personally. I was just like, I'm gonna held her hand. If I freeze her, I freeze her, and that's where I get her. If not, then hey, that's okay, and I have to take that L, and that's fine. So I did it, and I guess it's worked out pretty fine for me.
Which is also crazy, because it's like, you look back to that moment, and you're like, if you would not have made that move,
Probably wouldn't have.
we would have never been in this position.
Probably not.
Which is crazy. And so, anyway, so then he sends that message, and I don't see it till the morning, because I went to bed, and then I woke up and read it, and that was actually huge for me. Like, I remember having the most respect for you because of that. And I just remember reading it and being like, wow, like, talk about maturity now. Like, addresses the elephant in the room, owns up to his actions. Again, not that he did anything bad, but like, fully is like, hey, this is what happened. I did this in the right mind, and I'm going to address it. If you felt any type of way about it, then like, I apologize. And also like, took pressure off of me to say or do anything. Like, he just kind of addressed it and was like, see you at church. And so I responded, I was like, first and foremost, like, you didn't misread any signs. I was like, you didn't read the room wrong. I was totally comfortable with everything up until that moment. When that moment happened, I froze. I think I told you in that time too, I was like, I haven't held a guy's hand in 5 years. Like, this was just out of the ordinary. And I told him, I said, I'm honestly confused. Like, I don't really know what I feel right now. And I can elaborate on that further, but I really don't have anything else for you. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's kind of all I have to say, because I'm processing and I have no idea what to think. And I remember you responded, you were like, no worries. Like, you don't have to say anything more. I'll see you at church. And I was like, wow, cool. That like felt me, just like he said, it was his goal to make me feel comfortable. Like, that just made me feel very at ease and like, okay, like, something happened and we'll discuss it probably further, but like, I'm okay. I feel at peace. Like, I'm not stressed and I'm not worried, and there is clarity, and he removed any confusion. The only confusion that's there is because it's me on the inside. It's me internally going through my own thoughts, emotions, prayers, all the things. And so I felt like extremely comfortable even just like being in the same room with you that night and things like that. And then after that, you came over that night in a group of people, and I don't know if it was that night. I always forget if it was that night or another night, but we eventually went outside and talked.
Yeah, I probably pulled you up.
And I remember you had texted me because like Hunter was outside or something, and then you were like, come outside. And I remember like going outside, and I was like, I don't want people thinking anything, like whatever. And I feel like that was a different night, to be quite honest, that it was like not that exact same night. But we eventually have a conversation more in depth about kind of like what had happened and where I was at. And I elaborated with him more because like, you guys have heard the podcast. It's been posted. I've talked about it to many people. I've preached about it, like all the things. But he had no idea any of this because I recorded it the night before he made the move, and it didn't launch until like a couple weeks after. And so I was like, hey, so this happened at Passion, by the way, and didn't even give him the full thing at all, because that didn't come until like probably several weeks after too. But I was like, this happened, this interaction, I thought I was going to be single, now here you are, now I'm confused, now I'm kind of comfortable and I don't know what to do. And so again, like brutal honesty from the get-go of being like, here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I know this is not where I want to be. I know it's not where you want me to be either, but this is where I'm at. We can move forward with that, but like, this is where I'm at. And so we just had a really good conversation. And that conversation, we actually even brought up when we first met. We brought up the year of us meeting and hanging out, and how I felt a little offended by like you, or hearing from the grapevine, always hearing from the guys, flirty things from you, like Eli and Cam, but then you never making a move. And so like I kind of addressed that, and then you addressed some things with me as well. And that I feel like was also very good, because we were like clearing the air and like, again, the elephant in the room in a sense. And not that we needed to rehash, and not that we did rehash old things, but we cleared the air. We talked about things that needed to talk about. And in that moment, we talked too about how I'm like, why didn't you ever ask me out after I told you you could? I'm like, that didn't make sense to me. And I felt like, again, offended, because you had been on so much of the situationship guy before, of like him not pursuing correctly. And then I'm like, did you think you pursued correctly though? And then you were able to speak to your heart about that, and you're welcome to share, of course.
Yeah.
But you spoke there, and like we saw each other's perspectives. We saw how we assumed in different ways.
Yeah.
And got to get more insight of that, which was very, very needed, and almost like a breath of fresh air that we could be like, okay, like now we can move forward, and now we can like see what's up, you know?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably mention a little bit about a little bit of that conversation outside. I guess just mentioning again, kind of we already talked about a little bit about it, like making those assumptions, but going to her and actually telling her, hey, you know what, like I made these assumptions about you, and I was like, well, I didn't want to be a second option, I told her. And then I mentioned my lack of maturity too, I believe, and I was like, hey, like that was probably not the best first response, but at the end of the day, it obviously kind of worked out in a sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think we mentioned it then, but now that we know that time, separate was needed. But again, I think coming clear with how I thought things were said, how I felt, how you felt. And then I was like, actually, no, like, I was like, I didn't feel that, Cam. And you're like, wait, what? And then we both kind of just had like those moments like, oh, like we kind of like, again, kind of like going based off what our friends said in a sense, and not going to the source was kind of like, I mean, I guess quote unquote the mistake or whatever. But again, I wouldn't, if we did it any other way, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. Everything kind of happened for a reason. But again, I think learning that was very pivotal for us, because it was growth, and it was something that helped us understand how we both communicate and how we need to communicate better, specifically with each other. And I think that was something that even now we're like, man, like even back then we were like kind of, assuming and making some of those things, which has helped our relationship now, because even in some of the things that, we talk about, we're like, man, sometimes we just always assume, like we just always do that, and we can't do that. Like we need to like go and have a conversation with that person. And it's like it could be like still little things, but obviously there's other things too that we talk about. We had a conversation prior, and it was you kind of like listing out your priorities. We had a talk, and it was just a talk. It was not like, oh my God, I like you, and we like each other, and we should just like keep doing this. It was like none of that. It was just like setting the priorities of like.
Can I go into that if we're going to go into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because it's pivotal to before the 2 weeks.
Also pivotal to me.
Yeah, so both of those were really good, and I'll let Cam chime in here a little bit. But we had before those 2 weeks, and going into Valentine's Day, we had a conversation, and she was like, okay, finally, I'm going to address everything that happened. We hung out was that after or before that? We hung out for like 8 days straight.
Okay, so.
You go into this.
Yeah.
You do it.
Basically, this was like the pivotal conversation for me. The next conversation was the more pivotal conversation for him. But this one, I have my mic too. This was the first time that I felt like I got to the point where I was like, I kind of have feelings, and I'm kind of addressing them. So this was like me finally stepping up. Basically, we go through how we go through. We have those conversations like outside, whatever, after he made the move. And I tell him, we agree, hey, like, let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep hanging out. Let's see where this goes. So then we start doing that. No solo time, only in groups, but hanging out a ton. We are doing movie nights. We are doing game nights, just hanging out, dinners, casual time, like all this stuff, just like trying to fit in time together. This was also so, again, God's timing is crazy and pivotal. And this happened to be right when I start switching jobs. And so I had like 2 weeks off of work, or like a week and a half off of work in between transitioning from one job to the next. And so we kind of start hanging out, and then it goes into that time that I kind of had this freedom. And it was like 10 days that we're looking at here that we kind of like had solid 10 days together. And about 7 out of those 10 days we were together. And halfway through that point, it was a Wednesday night after FCA. I knew going into Wednesday, and we already told you beforehand, Kay and I had already like hinted to like, hey, I want to have a conversation tomorrow night. And so we go to FCA, we come back, we're eating at the house. I'm stalling as long as possible to have this conversation and avoiding it as much as possible. And I'm pretty sure Pran was like, can y'all go and talk already? And I was like, fine. So we get in my car and we drive to the tennis court. It's like around the house. And I have my notes ready to go. And I pull up my notes. Yeah. And I pull up my notes and I tell him, I'm like, don't make fun. I literally have like first line, don't make fun of me for notes, Eli. I have to have these to have this conversation. And I had that because I knew I would chicken out and not say the things that I needed to say. So I'm like, I need to actually write this down.
You're going to chicken out?
Of course. You know me because I'm not vulnerable. You know this.
Oh.
So then I'm good now. I'm better now. But back then, definitely not. But I'm closer now, at least. And so I have my notes. I read them. And we go over things like, it was like boundaries in different ways. So it was like, all right, who knows? Because at this point, I hadn't told anyone but Kay. Like, my sister didn't even know yet. Some of my closest friends didn't even know yet. My mom didn't even know yet. Like, no one knew but Kay, who was experiencing this in real time with me in the room. And so, but I knew on your hand that you had told some people and some people knew. And so I was like, let's address this now. Like, I've already mentioned this before. I'm like, I'm not here to say we should do things in secret, but I see it more as like sacred. Like, this is something that is important. We're not just goofing off. We're not just messing around. We're not just hanging out. Like, there's intention behind this and there's purpose behind this. And I'm coming into this thinking I'd be single the rest of my life. So I'm like, I'm either going to be single and thrive and have purpose and run with that in passion, or we're going to be extremely intentional and do this right. So like, you tell me. I'm good either way, but you tell me. So here's me being like, all right, so here's finally like I'm not against this. I'm kind of for this. I'm interested to see where it goes. At this point also, I didn't tell him about the dream until a long time after. Because again, that was like very, very sacred to me. And I didn't want to just share that with anyone. I also didn't know what was going to come out of this. And so I wasn't going to reveal something that God put on my heart with just anyone and everyone, with a guy. Like, I didn't want also it to be the weird, like, God told me. And God also didn't say anything about like, you should be with Eli. It was just this like, hey, maybe you should try. And I was like, okay, God, I guess I will. And so I went through that. We also talked about time. I was like, hey, so I'm about to go into a new job that I have no idea what the demands will be like, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more than what I'm currently doing. I'm going to be commuting a lot. I'm going to be driving a lot. I'm not going to have time to spend this great time with you that we're hanging out 7 out of 10 days. Like, This is not realistic. This is not real life, FYI. Like, this is a fun little season we get, but this is not going to be how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I also am launching book number 2, and I have a business to run, and I have this and that and the other. So I'm like, just letting you know, you are not at the top of my priority list. Like, I have my friends, like Kay, my family, my business, all this stuff, my work, my job, obviously my faith, church, all this. And I also told him too, I was like, yeah, I'm also thinking about going to VU, and I don't want it to seem like, oh, I'm going because of you. Like, I also want that to be totally separate experiences and journeys. I want that to be my own journey. I don't want it to be me experiencing things necessarily through you. Mm-hmm. I want it to be very individualized, and I didn't want this to now get in the way of anything. And I didn't want you to be a distraction and just like all this stuff. And granted, I told him all of that and said, I understand this is not sustainable for a relationship. This is how I'm feeling right now. I know it's not long term, but this is where I'm at. So once again, playing where my feet are, like, here's where I am. We can move forward, but this is where my starting point is.
Yeah.
Like, just letting you know, this is what we're working with. I'm being honest. I'm letting you know. I'm being clear as possible. I might have some confusion in me, but I'm letting you know what it's about, where it is, and how we can navigate it. And so, again, brutal honesty from the get-go of just talking about that. We even talked about a little bit of physical boundaries at that point because we were just like physically pretty comfortable with this. I mean, you see us now, but like just like things like this. And at that point, like we weren't even anything, we weren't even dating, and we were pretty comfortable with each other. And so I was just like, hey, like, let's just also kind of address that. I let you know where I was at, like where we want to, obviously we want to pursue purity. And then the last thing I told him was, I remember telling him, I was like, look, at the end of the day, we're here to do like 3 things. We're going to honor God, we're going to honor each other, and we're going to honor our future spouses. So I'm like, honoring God, easy, plain, simple, makes sense. Honoring each other, cool. We're going to do everything to honor each other to the best of our ability. Last thing, honor each other's future spouses. So like, I want your future wife to be like, wow, I'm so thankful that Eli actually dated Cameron Dobbs. I'm so thankful that he went out with Cameron Dobbs. I'm so thankful for that season that he was in. My future husband, I'm so grateful that Cam dated Eli. I'm so grateful she went out and she did what she needed to do then and like learned and grew so much. And he was really good to her and great for her. And he really molded her into being a great wife one day. And I told him, I said, granted, if we become each other's future spouses, then that's a win-win on our end. We honored each other through and through. We honored God. And in turn, we get the blessing of being each other's spouse.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, that's fantastic. So like we're doing whatever that is. Because right now we're not married. We're not engaged. Right back then, obviously when we're married, we're not engaged. So like till a ring, multiple rings are on the finger, like nothing more will happen. And so we just discussed all of that. It was a great conversation. And that was really pivotal for me, like I said, because it was the first time I was ever like, okay, I'm down. Let's see where this goes. Like fully really saying that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Do you want to move on to the next conversation?
No, we can move on next.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we go through, like, again, I'm now feeling like on cloud 9. Like I'm feeling like, wow, this is great. Like we're talking, we're excited, or all the things are hanging out. I was maybe drier in text, as he said, over text. I also am I'm a texter in a sense, but I don't know. There was also just like, I was at work or whatever, this and that and the other. And I was all in when we were together. But then other than that, I was just like chilling. Yeah. And granted, I also didn't think I didn't think anything of how I was responding. There was no bad intent. There was no like, oh, I'm going to try to be short with him because I don't know yet. Like, I was just truly being myself. But also being myself is being a girl that's very independent and never been in a relationship and didn't know how to do any of this. Mm-hmm. And so I had no idea that how I was acting through that little things like that were affecting him. Yeah. But so in my brain, I'm like, we're great. This is so fun. Valentine's Day is coming up. He's probably going to do something for Valentine's Day. He's very romantic. Like he does all the things. And so I'm like, I was also the year before, I don't know if I ever told you this, but the year before Danny, Kay, and I had dinner on Valentine's Day and Danny was like, I bet this is the last Valentine's you're going to have single. Like, I bet this is the last Valentine's. It's going to be like a Galentine's fully. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Danny was right. That was the last one. It's not like Eli's going to do something like flowers or like hang out or like, I don't know, like not to say we have to do anything like romantic dinner, solo, whatever. Like we hadn't even had a first date at this point. But I thought there would be something, happening. So Valentine's Day comes and nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
And I'm like, oh, like I remember like sitting in my kitchen with Kay and being like, just kidding, never mind.
And
I guess I was
will
wrong.
add into that.
Yes,
so ladies,
no, of
don't
course.
flame me.
No, that was, and exactly going to the point too of like not assuming. So I'm starting to assume now like, oh, he's really not that interested, or like, I guess this didn't mean as much to him as it did to me, and like maybe we're actually not gonna pursue something. Like, I don't know. I was just like very like small and insecure, and like I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah, so just to go off of that, I think again, prior to going into that week before, and like again, assumptions got the best of us.
Yeah.
For like one of the last times probably.
Yeah.
Well, for that, because
Yes.
we weren't official.
We hadn't even gotten our first date yet.
We haven't gotten our first date. We're still trying to figure out our schedules.
Yeah.
We were getting into the new job, so I was like, okay, we gotta. I'm intentional, so I was like, I don't want this to be rushed. I'm not a person to be rushed. I was like, I want to take my time to do this, and we're gonna do this right. So again, we're texting. I'm kind of like trying to pull something out of her, like, you know, conversation starters, and that's like nothing is going right. And again, I haven't
Like
seen
totally
her.
two sides of the story.
So I haven't seen her, so the only thing I can do is text her, because I know people are like, why did you go talk to her? It's like, well, yeah, but I haven't been able to actually see the woman. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Why am I not getting that same feeling that I'm getting in person? So again, I'm like, going into Valentine's Day, not my girlfriend, not nothing. So I was like, okay, so again, other people are going to say, oh, it's an opportunity to do this, do that. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But again, I honestly did not feel like I wanted to get anything for her, because it was like, well, not my girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, I like this person. I want to pursue this person. And it probably, may or may not have been a good opportunity to do anything. But I still had other things for that week. And I think we went to like a run club or something. And I honestly didn't even, I'll be honest, I wasn't even thinking about getting anything or like doing anything. So might have been a miscue on my part, but I was honestly thinking about everything else but that. And I think that's okay. It worked out, obviously. But again, trying to guard my heart and trying to say, okay, like what, not giving me really anything to work with here. Like, you know, what's going on here? So I guess I kind of overthought a little bit too. And I was like, well, that's fine. Like, I didn't know if she was going to be mad or not, or I was just kind of going to take the L on that specific day and event or whatever for Valentine's Day. And I remember, I think we got a text from Kay about doing this, that, and the other, and I was just like, I'm not going to address that. I'm going to address it in person and not through text. So then that's when...
It was like a little passive-aggressive text, like backing me up, basically.
Yeah, and I was like, well, first of all, not my girlfriend, and having, again, kind of readdressing what I just said, like, of not giving me anything to work with, like, being super dry over text from what I, saw and whatever, and I was like, I don't know what to, I hadn't even seen her. So again, just I guess I was trying to validate my response. Yeah. And again, may or may not have been a miscue, and I probably could have done something, but.
So then we kind of have this like unspoken about tension. Yeah. Of just like, tension. Because now I'm thinking like, he's not really that interested. He's just wasting my time. Like, I don't know what his agenda is here. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I didn't know. So like, was he just trying to get with me and then like whatever and all these things. And so then
at that point,
the weekend comes, church comes. I didn't go. Well, like, this was still, I guess, when I was double dipping. So maybe I had gone to Metro in the morning and then didn't go to VU at night or something. I don't know. For some reason, I was not at the 6 p.m. service at VU. And you were. And then all of a sudden, you're texting me and kind of something comes up. And
I was having a conversation, I remember, with Paran. And then I was like, well, nothing has been said to one party or the other. Yeah. Right now, again, this is where the maturity kicks in. And it's like, okay, well, we haven't talked to each other. I have no idea what she's feeling or how she's feeling. I don't understand any of these texts because it's like she's not giving me anything. I was like, I'm going to go address this with her and tell her, hey, this is why I didn't do anything for you. Because it kind of, you're really not giving me anything, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to go do it. So I text her in service. I'm literally like, hey, I had already gone to church in the morning, guys, so calm down. Got to church in the morning, but I was double dipping, obviously. Went to church, whatever, and then I remember I was sitting in the front, and then I was like, we need to get this right, like now. I need to get this right now. And I told her, hey, I'm going over to your house, and we're going to have this conversation right now.
And I remember I was texting you from my couch, the good old couch, always, the good old couch, always comes in a conversation. And I remember I texted you, were like, I'm coming. And I'm like, now? And it's like 6:20, and church starts at 6, and I'm like, are you not in service? And you're like, yeah, I'm coming. And I'm like, so okay.
Pran comes in clutch, obviously, and then I go directly to your house, and then you kind of already assumed that something was going to happen, which is why I left. You just didn't know, I guess, exactly. So that's when I mentioned, I was like, hey, so there's something we need to address, because I felt like there was some tension, and
we talked about everything you just heard.
Yeah, we talked about all that, and then we both, again, having our little type moment. We were just like, we're good.
We're like,
we're actually really good.
We're okay.
So then I think that probably even encourages them more to be even more comfortable. I think we were probably kind of snuggly then, for sure, probably right after. And we were like, we're chilling. We're like, she's kind of cute. Whatever. So, we're feeling ourselves, whatever, and we're kind of just spend some time while everybody comes over. I think everyone came over after that.
Yeah.
And I think that was pivotal, again, for me, because I was like, man, like, okay, this is good. Because even though we had a misfire or a miscommunication, we went to the source, had a conversation, and we're like, we're definitely not feeling like this. Because, again, I had this misconception of like, you felt this way. You're not even, like, texting me. Like, I was like, is she talking to another person? There's no way, right? Like, and I again, I don't overthink, but I was like, I feel like I'm doing everything right here, right? Mm-hmm. Have that conversation, super pivotal for me. And that's what I told her. I was like, okay, that conversation was really, really good for me because now I know where you're at. And then kind of what, not that she needed to do, but I was like, hey, I was like, kind of like show me something here, Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not trying to dig for it or like trying to,
I was like, I actually have to act like I like you.
Wow, yeah. I was
Didn't know that.
Nice. That's really good, babe.
That's a new one for me, sorry.
No, but.
I'm used to being in situationships, so
Yeah, nice. Well, you're not in one anymore, so that's good. Praise God. So that happens. That was super pivotal. And then we go on our first date probably that following week, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, we went on our first date. We went to Putschek.
Yeah.
Putschek, fun place, mini golf. I think it was a very intentional first date. Mm-hmm. We had fun. We were competitive, obviously. Cam doesn't want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. And I clearly beat her. There's a video for proof.
Okay.
And, no, sorry. It's okay. You don't have to talk about it. It's okay. Just take your out. Take your out.
No, let me just say, he won. Babe, let me declare, he won.
Okay, babe.
But we tied, and they gave him the victory because he freaking got more of the point thingy things.
No. Anyways, there's video proof. Sorry, Cam.
You won. 1,000%.
I'm a winner.
But it was definitely
It's okay, Cam. There's no ties.
The ACC would have been all over it the next week. There would have been a lot of tweets.
There's
a lot
only
of
statements
and
losers
made.
And I was the winner, and Cameron was the loser.
You're right. You're the winner.
Anyways, we're gonna shut that down.
You're sitting here with me.
We're gonna shut that down. Okay. That's a good one, babe.
Here's insight to our relationship.
Anyways, I was a winner. She lost, but then she really won because she snagged a good guy, not a boring guy, right?
Never a
fun
boring guy.
A little insider there for everyone.
They didn't get it right away?
They definitely did not get it.
Some
of our friends might have gotten it. But I'm a fun guy, not a boring guy, right?
If you didn't know, I roll my eyes constantly anyway. I don't think I ever rolled my eyes ever in my life until I met him. And now I roll them about 70 million times a day.
Oh, man. Just a great eye roll. Love it. But I had a great first night. We shared a lot of great
first date,
things.
I feel like our first date was very much I remember going in there I'm going to observe. I'm just going to learn. I'm going to learn more about this man.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had never had not
this
to say
one-on-one.
Not to say never, because we'd ridden in the car before together and things like that.
Yeah.
But we had never had dinner together.
Just intentional
hung out together one-on-one in the 2 years that we know each other.
Yeah.
And so I was I'm just gonna really observe and hear and listen and obviously he asked me questions and then I actually told a lot of my story of how I got to Miami. You didn't even know my recruiting
full
story.
thing, yeah.
And so he knew kind of my testimony, but not my recruiting stories. I told my recruiting story and I heard about a lot of you and a lot of your past relationships. And I don't know if you want to speak to anything that I learned that night.
Yeah.
But that was very pivotal for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mentioned I was in a relationship when I was 18 years old, 17. I don't know. That lasted maybe a year, 9 months, something like that. In another relationship for about almost a year and some change. Talked about those things and then revealing some obviously personal things to you. And you were like, wow, I had no idea. Now you're just more attractive. And I'm like, well, thanks. I thought, I don't know.
Do you want to share those?
I mean,
I
can. I can share those things.
Sure, I think you should.
So basically, we're just talking a little bit about obviously our relationships.
Yeah.
And I told her I think I said the line, and I'm waiting for marriage. And then that was
mentally I was like,
she was like in shock. And she was like, like,
Ding, ding,
I could
ding,
see
ding,
it
ding,
in like
ding,
her
ding.
eyes.
I'm
Like, she
like,
didn't even need to
oh.
tell me. She goes, oh, that's nice to know. Because I was obviously like a virgin, had not
Yeah.
ever had sex before, and definitely waiting for marriage, and went a little bit more obviously in that direction. And I mentioned that to her, and I was like, what did you think? Like, did
Well,
you?
granted, we didn't address that then. We addressed that over text.
Oh, over text, yeah.
The next,
but
yeah.
I think I addressed it afterwards, saying like, I was like, I could see the expression in your face, or
Yeah,
something like that, and you were like, I didn't want to say anything, or something like that.
I was just very pleasantly surprised. And,
Yeah.
and we joke now, and he's like, you thought I was a heathen and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like, I did not think that you were
Yeah.
sleeping around or like anything like that. I just was, it's a guy. It is 2024. Like, as much as we wish that was the norm, like, I understand it's not. And that's sad, and it's so unfortunate. But it's true. And so I just didn't know. I guess I didn't want to assume. So maybe I assumed the other way.
Yeah.
But
And that's okay.
I also like, I don't know, this is such a tough like thing to deal with, I feel like too, but I was like, a sin is a sin, and we all sin, and none of us are fully pure.
Yeah.
I have things that I've struggled with in the past by far too, and that's a big story like with my purity ring too. Because though I'm a virgin, I've never had sex, like there are other things that have happened. And
Yeah.
so I had that moment in my mind where I was like, I'm just approaching this with grace too. Like if he had like that, I don't want that to stop me from pursuing someone that's a born again virgin, you know, or things like that.
Yeah.
So I had almost had that moment already where I was like, all right, like I feel like I can't expect anyone nowadays to be a virgin, which again is so sad. But I was like, you know, okay, like I'm ready to go through whatever healing or conversations we have to have through this. And then he said that, and I was like, oh, nice.
Which again, just to add more into
Noted.
that, like, yeah, I think it's so fortunate, obviously, to find
Yeah.
someone else like-minded, and obviously not easy by any means.
Yeah.
And again, just to go back off kind of what you said, like both of us, you know, are not perfect, and we have had our fair share of experiences and thoughts and impurities, and we both have gone through that. And,
Yeah.
you know, even though we've gone through that, we know obviously that we've been redeemed, and
Yeah. Amen.
sin is sin as well, like you said. And I think it goes back to yeah, it's just being so fortunate that another person thinks the same way and wants to honor
values
that,
it.
and wants to value it. But at the end of the day, yeah, just very thankful
Yeah.
for that. I think that's something that, you know, obviously a lot of people would wish that was the case. And even if it's not the case for some people, I know, you know, I have friends, families, and all those things, and that may not be the case. And again, that's every story is different for other people. And, you know, that fortunately for us, that is our story, and we're really grateful for that. And I think that's something that we don't take for granted, that we're excited about. I think that's something that I think we mentioned it too, that's something that people can look at and be like, oh, you know what, it is possible.
It's possible.
So
it's hard, but it's possible.
I think that's something that's exciting to tell people, as much as, you know, like you said, in 2024, that's not as common. It's definitely something that we should celebrate and honor each other for, and definitely tell people like, hey, you know what, it is possible. It's possible to not have sex, and to, you know, have self-control. And again, it's not one of those like, yeah, just go ahead and have self-control. It's so easy nowadays. It's like, no, it's actually like, it's hard, it's difficult, and it's like a privilege almost to like literally endure that type of self-control, because it's like, you know, there's a lot of people out there who, you know, sadly don't do that. And that's,
we believe like every time every time we leave after being alone, we're like, that's a win. Like it's truly like, that's a win. Like that is us having strength. Thank you, Jesus. And it is us like following our boundaries that we have, and having accountability partners, and having mentors, and having people speak into us, and knowing the value that it holds to wait, and the purpose behind that. And so we can go into that as well deeper, I think, as maybe some questions come up too, because I know there are some about purity that we're going to answer too. But yeah, that was very pivotal for me to hear, and just like, all right, cool, noted, just something else to hold on to. And so from there, like we had our first date, and I feel like it was honestly like, it just went from there. Like, I feel like this is kind of where, like, I hope you're still listening and you're enduring with us here. But I feel like from there, I was like, all right, we just like go and like first kiss on February 25th. And then from there, like we just like kept going and all the things. And then I think the biggest thing within us was we just walked with so much intentionality. Like we were very, very, very intentional in the conversations we had. I think he probably could have asked me to be his girlfriend a lot earlier. I was very hesitant for several reasons. The main being, and I told him this too, I was like, look, my goal is not to be a girlfriend. My goal is to be a wife. So I'm not here like, I want to be his girlfriend. I want to be his girlfriend. I'm like, sure, maybe, but like, I'm trying to be a wife. That's the goal. In the Bible, you don't read about dating. You don't read about boyfriend and girlfriend. You read about marriage or being single. And so I was like, I'm going there. And so I'm doing what I need to do to get there. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're defining the relationship. We understand we're exclusive, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm like, that's not the top thing on my head. And so for me too, being my first relationship, like at this point in my life, 25 years old, I was like, I hold that title really highly, especially with how independent I am and how satisfied I am in being single. I'm like, if I'm going to have a boyfriend, that's very serious for me because that means I have surrendered my singleness in a sense and stepped into a new season. And that takes a lot for me to do because I treat this seriously because it is serious. Yeah. Like marriage, we take very seriously. So dating, we take very seriously. And granted, we have a lot of fun with it. I don't want it to sound like we don't have fun because we have a whole lot of fun. But like there was a burden and a weight to it. Mm-hmm. And so we start having really, really good and intense conversations from the get-go of a variety of different things, of family dynamics, of physical past, of emotional past, of, I've never dated a guy before, but I've been in 2 situationships and went out with another guy. And so like kind of dissecting that and realizing how that affected him in return and how that actually still affects me and what it left me guarded or this or that and the other, and walking through that and talking about even topics like the future and kids and money and what life will look like in the future and not where we're going to live, because I don't want to sound like we were like, where are we going to live and where are we going to build our house? But like, just like thinking of future and like logistics and what things would look like. Lots and lots and lots of spiritual questions, of faith questions, of diving into different things, and also having these topics again and again, having multiple conversations in areas. Yes, if we felt like we closed a chapter in a conversation, we were good. But there were also some things that we kept revisiting. We kept revisiting boundaries. We kept talking about that as needed. Like, we didn't ever let anything be a topic that it was like, oh no, we've already touched, or that's too far. No, we were like, no, if anything now, politics, like literally anything. Like if any conversation we have could result eventually in us breaking up, we're having it now. Yeah. We're not wasting time. We're not going to date for a year and be like, oh, now we should start talking seriously because maybe like rings are in the conversation. It's like, no, like if my goal is to be married, whenever that might be, let's talk now because I'm not wasting my time. I'm not wasting your time. So if we're going to do all this just to break up for a reason we could have known and talked about day one, why are we going to go through this for so many reasons? Like, this is ridiculous. And so we were just very, very intentional about conversations we were having. Once again, did it with wisdom, did so with discernment. We weren't opening too many cans of worms. We weren't going too intimate into details or anything like that. But we were addressing conversations that needed to happen. And in turn, helped us grow and helped us, I think every conversation we had that, again, could have ended make or break, we were like, oh, that made us. Yeah. We survive in advance. And like talking about past, talking about whatever it might be, like talking about things that you've maybe even shared with like 1 or 2 people in your life, like hidden dark secrets, things like that. And being like, wait, he just gave me grace for that. Wait, he still likes me. He's still interested. Like, oh, we're moving forward. Okay. And so it's just like that whole time I feel like was just conversation after conversation, good conversation, brutal honesty, learning how we can best communicating very well, serving at church together, like doing all these things, doing a lot of things sacred and not in secret, but sacred. And then slowly but surely welcoming some more friends, telling families, getting people involved. Once it got worth telling, I started telling more people. You know, I started getting people more invested. People started to speak into us. People started to help us be accountable of our actions, of our time together as well, checking in on us, different things as well. So that was like very, very important. And then I don't know if you want to say anything until we go into being your girlfriend.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think. We went through March, and then I maybe can touch on when I wanted to ask you out, because remember I had a plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a plan of asking her, because again, it's like Cam was saying about I could have made her my girlfriend earlier, but again, it's God is so funny and so kind about the timing of all this, because again, I could have like been super impatient, I guess you could say, and just ask her out really quickly and all that, and she honestly, I don't even know if she would have probably said yes the first time around, just because of
I don't know.
not because of anything. It just was like, again, you were still processing, you were taking your time.
I needed to grow in my own confidence.
Yeah, and I was
too.
just reading,
That was a whole nother
and
thing.
again, reading the room and reading how you felt and how you were, and again, being slowly but surely open with me and being vulnerable. And I think those were pivotal things for me, learning and how she was. I was like, okay, now she's more, I'm confident about this. And these topics are so much more easy to talk about. And now she's so much more vulnerable. And just noting those things and talking about some of the guys. And Edwin obviously was super pivotal in this. And he's like, because my plan was to ask her at California.
Yeah, we were going to California for Colby's wedding. We've already mentioned Colby.
And I was like, man, I think I'm gonna ask her there. I had this whole plan.
And I kind of thought that was happening too.
And I was like, oh, it's gonna be so nice. It's gonna be so planned, so thought out. Again, super intentional. I was like, yeah, I know. I already booked a reservation for us, everything. But then I had a conversation with Edwin, I remember, and he was like, dude, why are you gonna wait like that long? And I was like, well, it's because you don't get it. Like, I'm gonna be like super intentional doing this. And I was like, he's like, yeah, but like, what's like, why like wait that long?
Not just do it now?
Why not just do it now? And I was like, well, you're not wrong. So I started thinking a little bit more, and then I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I'm gonna ask her. I was like, I had a dinner reservation planned too, and I was like, man, I think I'm gonna ask her this day, whatever. So we went out, had dinner, and I remember that day. I think it was like, not a good like. It was just you had a like tough day that day. Yeah. Again, just reading the room and seeing how it was, and emotionally, not that you weren't there. It was just like emotionally you were invested somewhere else, and you were just everywhere else. But not that you weren't present, but you were just it's
a lot going on.
A lot going on. Again, read the room. I was like, okay, I think I'm still like holding off a little bit longer. And then
good move.
And then I remember you were going back home to Atlanta.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, I think when she comes back, that's gonna be like, I'm go for the kill, whatever. But yeah, I remember I waited out for that. That's a nice yawn right there, babe. I've been holding on for like 2 yawns because your eyes are watering now. Dude, that's great. Now I don't feel bad at all. I'm gonna yawn like 2 or 3 times.
Most people are just listening to this anyway, so.
Yeah, that was a good yawn.
Thank you.
So yeah, I so I waited a bit longer. And then you went to Atlanta, and I go, I'm going to ask her then.
Which, granted, also, the planning for this was not, she's now going to Atlanta this weekend. It's a month in advance.
Yeah. You had already told me, I'm planning in advance to go, whatever. And I was like, oh, great. So.
Can I tell my side?
Babe.
Sorry, like, finish whatever. But I'm just saying, I just feel like it's more fun, like, hearing from my, like, without knowing any of the behind the scenes.
Everything's just so much more fun with your side.
No, just without hearing the behind it. Because then they get to feel it with me. They get to feel what I experienced.
Nice, babe, nice.
But you did it all for me. You did it so I would feel this way.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Okay, so do you want me to finish, or do you want to jump in?
Don't say anything that happened. But you can, like, if you want to finish saying, like, I don't know if you, whatever. I don't know what else to say.
Cam, you're way too excited to share this.
I love the story.
Anyways, so yeah, I plan to do this. I get some of our friends involved. You say you want to say that's it.
Yeah, right? Don't say anything.
So I get some friends involved. I do this pretty cool thing, intentional thing that Cam will mention. Do you want me to mention what I did for you prior, or you're going to mention the entire thing?
No, I'm going to say everything.
Okay, anyways. I planned something, and now Cameron is gonna fill in with everything.
I love this story. Because you can, like I said, you can
We're
experience
gonna
it
be
with
at
me.
4 hours
I know.
now, Cam.
This is gonna be like all season 4 is actually just
I'm just
us.
gonna like take a nap now.
Okay,
It's right
go
here.
ahead. I'll go talk. Okay, so basically, it starts like we said, like a month in advance. So I get a text, another trip to Atlanta. Before I get a text from our friend Nicole, and it was like Nicole and the boys, and so it was like Nicole, Edwin, Paran, whoever was all in the chat, and she's like, guys, as you know, my birthday's coming up, and I would love to do something with all of y'all. Like, if you're free, like, mark your calendars for Tuesday, June 11th, Coconut Grove, dinner at Meraki, 8 p.m. or something like that. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, I actually have something beforehand, but it's at like 7. So I think I can slide after. Like, I think I'll make it. And they all respond, whatever. I'm like, yay, cool. Nicole's birthday. Amazing. So fast forward, we go through the month, and I get Nicole's present and getting ready, like all the stuff. The day comes. It's June 11th, and he's texting me in the morning, and I had a lot on my plate. Like, I'm wrapping up book number 2. I'm doing all this, the business, everything, work, all the stuff. And I was a little stressed in this moment. I remember him texting me that morning. He was like, all right, like, go crush your day. Like, you're going to kill it. And then, like, I'll see you tonight. I'm like, thanks, babe. Like, I appreciate that. Like, letting me be, like, empowered and independent, but, like, reuniting at the end of the day, too. And so I was like, I love that. Thank you. And so then I go about my day, and it was, like, little by little, God was just like, actually, your plate's a little lighter here. You don't have to do this anymore. You don't have this meeting. Cancel this with your friend. Like, just let yourself enjoy. And I was like, wow, this is going to end up being a great day. So go about my day, finally get home, like rushing home from work. At this point, I still had like the hour commute. I finally get home. He also has my location at this point, which is a pivotal point. But I get home, I walk into my bedroom, and I walk into my room, and actually on this desk that the laptop's currently sitting on, I look down and I go, what the heck? And there's something folded with a note on top and his name. And I'm like, dear Lord. So I go up and I see it's a dress. And then there's a note inside that says, like, wear this tonight. If it doesn't fit, we'll return it. Or if it doesn't fit, we'll exchange it. LOL. And there were also earrings with it. And it was also my birthstone. So again, very intentional, like all the things. And so I'm just like, what is going on? So I go out, I walk back out into the living room, and I'm like, Kay, did you have something to do with this? And she was like, I might have had something to do with it. I was like, roll my eyes, walk back in my room. And I'm like mad woman, like getting everything done, working up book stuff. I'm on the phone with my mom, like running super late on Miami time to the core. And people start texting, like, Nicole's like, oh, like home from work, getting ready now. Sorry. And then eventually the boys start sending like, on my way, ETAs, all this stuff. And I'm like, I haven't even changed yet. Like, how are you guys on time and early? I'm like, what is going on? And so I'm like busting my butt so hard to like try to get everything done, get ready, whatever. I get ready, dress is a perfect fit, earrings look great, get my fit on, go in the car, grab Nicole's present, and I text them. I'm like, I'm finally on my way. Like, I'm so sorry I'm late, but I'm bearing gifts. So like, I'm coming with gifts, Nicole. Like, you're welcome. She's like, oh, you're so cute. Thank you so much. So he texts me individually. And he's like, hey, park at this parking garage. He rode there with Edwin, supposedly. And I was going to meet him, and then we were going to walk over and find everyone. So I'm like, cool, perfect. I also would not have parked there if it wasn't for him telling me that. So I go park in the garage. We hadn't seen each other in like 4 or 5 days. So I walk out, and he's holding flowers. And I'm like, oh, cute, Eli, yay, love. And so he gives me flowers, and I'm like, very sweet, like this is not anything out of the ordinary. He's very intentional. Like he always is very like romantic and like, I'm blanking on the word I was going to say, but he does all the things. And so, man, it's going to bother me that I can't think of that word. But anyway, he does that. And this is, if you live in South Florida, if you live in Miami, this is the summer and it's hurricane season. And specifically during this season, it was brutal with storms, like flooding every single day, really, really bad. And so we walk out, like neither of us have an umbrella. It's raining, all things. We were under covered, so we were fine. But then I was like, I should get my umbrella because we're about to walk. Nice, babe. Because we're about to walk in the rain. So I'm like, let me go back and get my umbrella. And he's like, yeah, good idea. Let's go back. So we go back to my car and I grab my umbrella and he's like, just leave the flowers there. Like, you don't need the flowers. And I'm like, great idea. If you didn't get Nicole flowers, that's going to be so awkward for her to, like, me walk in with flowers and be like, oh, these are for me. Sorry. And so I was like, great idea. Let me leave the flowers. Plus it's raining. I don't want to ruin them. Like, you're so smart, babe. So I leave him in the car. And then he's like, just leave Nicole's gift in there too. And I'm like, you're so right again. Let me leave it in the car. It's raining. Don't want to get it wet. We all parked in the garage anyway. We're all going to come back here and probably talk for 20 minutes after anyway. So like, yeah, let me just leave him there and get it after. No worries at all. You're a genius. So we walk back. We walk around the Grove to Meraki. And we're like huddled under my umbrella, catching up on Atlanta, all the things. And we get to Meraki, the restaurant, and where it has like glass windows in the front and you can see the entire restaurant. It's not very big. So you can see the entire restaurant and I like quickly glance in and I don't see any of our friends. And so I like kind of like look back at him, like waiting for like sense of direction of what we're doing, where they're at, whatever. And he just looks at me and he's like, there's been a change of plans. And I'm like, okay. And like, I'm just literally staring at him. I'm like, next. And he goes, yeah, we're going to have to pivot. And I'm like, thinking in my head, like, oh, they went and got appetizers somewhere else. There's a million spot seat in the Grove. They probably didn't want to wait. For some reason, reservation fell through. I don't know. They went somewhere else. We're going to meet them somewhere else, do something different. Cool. We're all pivoting. And he goes, yeah, it's going to be just you and me tonight. And I go, what? And you're like, yeah, it's just us. No one else is coming. They're all in on it. And I'm like, what? And I'm dumbfounded. And then we're standing like in the street, not literally in the street, but like on the sidewalk in Coconut Grove. And you like pulled me a little to the side a little bit more and you're like, all right, I have 2 questions. And you only get to the second if you get the first. I have 2 things to say. Quick little context on my end. The night before, I went over to Chris Alessi's, he's been on the podcast. I went over to Chris Alessi and his wife Rochelle's house, and we debriefed everything. We talked about the church change, which was actually the biggest blessing ever. They blessed me in leaving. We talked about Eli. They had no idea, so we literally talked for like 5 hours plus. And they basically, long story short, really, really, really empowered me to go for it. And they were like, Cam, we think this is great for you. They put a lot of confidence in me. They knew Eli and saw great things within him and just really advocated for this. And Chris was like, Cam, get out of your head and actually play where your feet are and enjoy this. Like, go for it. Like, stop overthinking everything. And I'm like, okay, fine. So then he says he has these 2 questions. And I'm like, okay. And he just goes, will you be my girlfriend? Like, right off the bat. No hesitation. Like, I always kind of thought when this would happen, it would be like full night dinner, full evening, all the feels. Like, and then afterwards, it would be like, this has been great. So will you be my girlfriend? And instead, it was like right away. And so I was like, straight to business. Oh, shoot. Okay. So like for literally a millisecond, I was like, oh, goodness. And then I just said, yes. And then you said, okay. And then you pulled out of your pocket and you had this necklace that I wear every single day. Oh, it's caught on my mic, but it has the letter C on it and a couple rhinestones, which C for Cam.
It is C for Cam.
Sure. But also his last name starts with a C. So I'm also like, subtle. Couldn't do an E. An E would be too bold.
E too much.
E would be too much.
We're not there yet.
But the C was a very subtle little hint there, I feel like.
Nice.
Anyway, so he gave me I was already wearing the necklace. I was always wearing the earrings. He gave me the necklace. I was in the dress. And then he was like, yeah, we're not even eating here. We're eating over there. And I was like, oh, so everything's a lie. Okay. And I was just like, what is going on? And just like so happy. And like, I love surprises. And so the fact that he surprised me and I'm just like, okay, I'll follow you wherever. Like, where are we going? And so we sat down and went to Mr. 01, had some good pizza. He was like, do you want to see the behind the scenes? So then he pulled out his phone and I was able to read the group chat of everyone before I was in it. And just like all the behind the scenes and all the intention, like we said, this was like a month in advance planning after he already had something planned in California and then was planning this. And it was just so funny, like reading back those messages and even the day of being like, all right, guys, today's the day. And Nicole's like, I'm more nervous than you are. And just like Edwin's freaking out and everyone's like saying all this stuff. And Eli just being like, so on top of it and being like, all right, Nicole, or like even when I was on my way home, you were like, all right, she's on her way home, like ETA this, like da 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 da. And then like, Nicole, say you got home from work, text her that you're leaving like in an hour. All right, Edwin, I'm riding with you, like act like I'm riding with you. Okay, Paran, start sending your ETA. Like, and it was just like, he was so on it, like on every single little detail. And it was hilarious. And then being able to like send them a photo after and being like, she said yes, and like we're like whatever, all the things, and like we're hanging out now and she knows, and hearing more of like that was actually a crew night. And funny enough, so we mentioned how we met at crew. I now go to that crew and I'm a building block in that crew, so full circle crazy moment there. But crew was that night, but it was storming, so they changed plans. But he had even mentioned to our crew leader Mike Noriega, like in case something happened, he had him in the loop. Allie Gaddy, who I was originally getting boba with that night, but ended up canceling. She was in the loop because he was like, I need to know her ETA. I need to know where she's at, how long you're already taking. My friend Danny helped pick out the dress. Kay helped deliver it to me. Colby kind of knew because originally it was going to be California, but then that changed. Our friend Anna knew because she was going to be in California with us, but then that changed. So it was just like, it was also hilarious because I'm like, wow, literally everyone in Miami knew except for me. And I loved it. And just seeing like how he literally went, like, not to the ends of the earth, but just like to all this effort just to ask me to be his girlfriend and like just to show how much this meant to him and like make me feel really special was really special. And I felt every single bit of it. And I love a good story. And now we have a great story to tell from it. But you absolutely like knocked that out of the park. And that was literally like one of my favorite stories I ever get to tell. I love that story so much. And I remember like recording like the 10-minute voice memo the next day and like sending it to everyone. And then of course half of them were like, we already knew, he told us before. And I'm like, I had no idea, but okay. So yeah, that's how we became boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Great story. Honestly, amazing job by me. I mean, again, I guess I am him.
I guess.
Per Hannah.
Her Hannah ruined it.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I think that the entire time, again, I love being intentional. I love being able to show you how much I love you. And I still have actually the film camera. Yeah. Remember, we need to go get those pictures. I haven't done that. But yeah, I took some film camera pictures of that night. Yeah. It was so good. I loved being able to surprise you and do that for you. I think it was obviously pivotal to our relationship now and how much I love you and how much obviously I want to do life with you. And just how much it goes to show that I'm not a boring guy. So I'm very much a fun guy. So yeah. Anything else?
Indeed. Yeah, so then we became boyfriend and girlfriend. We went and we had our Cali trip. That was great. And then, oh wait, that's backwards. We had VuCon first. Cali was second.
Yeah.
So VuCon, well then, I always forget this and I always feel bad that I forget this and I should probably somehow find out. But you told me you loved me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that happened. So
that was
it was like
right before VuCon?
Yeah, it was probably like a week or so after, because June 11th was the day boyfriend and girlfriend. June 22nd was the last day of VuCon.
Yeah.
So sometime in between there, like middle of the spectrum maybe, he had told me he loved me. And even that was like, again, just like, I love that story too, because I feel like it defines so much of us, because we were saying goodbye. I was about to drive home. You told me in the car, or like he told me he was standing outside of the car. I was in the driver's seat, and you were like, dramatically leaning into the car, and and it's like to Kelsey, who's, I hope you're watching or listening to this. She's always, every single time you do anything, she's like, it's straight out of a movie or a book. Like, she's just so like, I love Kelsey. And it's just, our rom-com hearts are absolutely bursting with joy every single time he walks in the room. And so anyway, so he's like leaning into the car and like we're talking and saying goodbye or whatever. And then you like, I don't know if he's like, I don't know if you kiss me first or something, but like kiss me, say goodnight, and then say like, well, backing up, we had really good conversation in the car that night, like before saying goodbye.
Very great conversation.
And it was like very futuristic and like really good combos. And I remember you even in that moment, I think we're kind of like you've said some heavy, like hefty things tonight. Like maybe that would provoke like a couple words. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. But anyway, and so we had a great conversation that kind of led up to this moment. And then, yeah, you were leaning, you like kissed me, said goodnight, whatever. And then you were like, I love you. And then you said, you like, don't say it back till you mean it. And then you kind of like into the night. Dramatic. But I remember hearing that and I loved it because he knew where I was at. And he knew that I was growing every single day in vulnerability. And he knew that I did like him and I was in it with him, but it was taking me a little longer. And if he could just be patient with me, like I couldn't promise him anything because I couldn't promise anything at all. And we didn't owe each other anything. Like we were doing this independently and doing the best we could. But I'm like, just bear with me and I will progress, hopefully. That was the goal. And so when he said that, that took not all the pressure off of me, but that took a lot of pressure off of me to, say something that I didn't mean or didn't feel or didn't process yet. And he gave me time that I could really process that and feel that when I really felt it. And when I was really confident in that. And so I made him wait until I was ready. And I kind of felt bad, but also not at all because I didn't want to say it until I fully knew I meant it. Mm-hmm. And so VuCon happens and that finishes. That was amazing. I also got to see him lead from like a distance too. And I think that was almost like a pivotal moment for me too. Just like seeing him down on the floor and like me up in the seats worshiping. And I had my own moment that I was in. And then the night before, I was going to a wedding and he was like, you're not driving 4 hours there and back, exhausted. Like, no, that's not going to be safe. And that's not going to happen on my watch. So I'm coming with you. And I was like, all right, road trip. And mind you, like, he's not going to the wedding. Like, he's going to drop me off and then pick me up hours later. And that's what he did. And I remember driving up there. Like, I was just, like, looking at you. And you, like, looked back at me. And he was driving. And you were like, what are you thinking about? He always asks me, what are you thinking about? Because I never say. And so he has to get it out of me. And he's like, what are you thinking about right now? And I was like, just how much I love you. And you were like, really? And so then I said it June 22nd. So that was boyfriend, girlfriend, June 11th. Sometime in the middle you had said it. And then I wrapped it up June 22nd. Said I love you. And then from there, we went to California. We've been to Texas. We've been to Atlanta. We went to Auburn, stormed the field. So many things. So many things. And it's just been great ever since.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And now we're recording this 6 months since June 11th. And we're launching part 1. Who knows what part we're on as you're hearing this. But part 1 will be launched on the day he made the move.
On the day I made the move.
So crazy. So 1 year later since the move happened. Mm-hmm. Here's your check-in. Here's where we're at.
Yeah.
Anything else you're going to share?
Yeah, I think, it's been a great 6 months.
I'd hope so. That'd be really awkward. He's like, actually...
No, it's been a really great 6 months. I think that we've both learned so much. I think probably, if not half or 75% of this has been a lot of just communication, right?
Yes.
And we've talked about the little medium distance that we do, and you being over here in Las Olas and me being down in South Miami. But I think I don't know who I was talking to about this. I was like, I'm honestly so grateful for that because I think during the week, we grind and we do our things, and then, we look forward to missing each other and being with each other now. And even as we're recording this podcast, we're having some alone time, just us, and, taking everything in and talking about plans and just all the things. And I think that's something that I appreciate so much. And honestly, that I tell people all the time, like, it doesn't even feel like we're doing like quote unquote distance. It just feels like, you're getting it done, I'm getting it done, and we're trying to build something here. And
I think that forced us to also grow up and be mature.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like that allowed us to not be like oh my gosh, I'm going to see him every day and he's so cute and my crush and all this stuff. And like, no, it's like, no, we grind and we work our real jobs and we do our thing. And not to say that like it takes the magic out of it, or not to say that when you're married, like it's not whatever, but like even when you are married, like you have to go about your day and do your work, and try to not talk too futuristically.
I think it's right now for the season that we're in, it's sustainable.
Yes.
It's sustainable because obviously we're in a different season, boyfriend, girlfriend. We're doing our things, trying to work to a specific goal that we believe is where we want to be.
Yes.
And I think the latter of that is when, we have more times in hands, and that's all futuristic and, again, sustainable for now. And what we're doing in our season is boyfriend and girlfriend. And whenever that accelerates to anything more, I think obviously there's more conversation of, obviously you're with that human basically 24/7. But, we're not there yet. And I think we're working to be there, and that is an end goal that both of us want. And, just being vulnerable with that. And
it emphasizes intentionality with our time.
Yeah, of course.
And, like, when we're together, it's like, I'm only seeing you one-on-one once a week. Like, we'll hang out Sundays at church and stuff, but that's at church, that's with people around. So, like, Saturdays are typically our only days that we actually have solo time together. Yeah. And so I think it's just, like, whenever we're together, we try to be really intentional when we're together. And whenever we're apart, we're intentional to get things done so that I can sacrifice time like this on a Saturday and be with you.
Intentional about communicating even too during the week. Like, we know we're at our job, so we don't need to be texting each other when we're
have grace.
So we understand a lot of that. So we're enjoying this season. I think that I love where we're at, obviously, and how we're recording this podcast, and hopefully some of the viewers, obviously, take everything with a grain of salt. We're not experts here. We're not gurus, none of that. And
just sharing our story.
Sharing our story, how we're going about it. And I think I love where we're at with that. And any other thoughts there?
Yeah.
Dobbs?
Well, I think at this point, we'll probably wrap this portion of the episode, because our next portion, we want to get into some more conversations of questions and lessons. And so as we pause this moment, we just want to say thank you so much for watching or listening to our story. It is literally just kind of the facts of our story. A little bit of maybe some wisdom of what we learned in there. But next episode, we really want to dive into questions from you guys and lessons we've learned, and hope that, play where your feet are. That is my life mission. And that's what we're doing in this. And I think that everything that I've walked through in my life, I wanted to be intentional, not just to be intentional with it, but also to use it as a ministry. And so just as I used my singleness as a ministry, now I want to use my relationship as a ministry. And so I'm hoping that we can shed some light on, like you had mentioned already, like how to do things right. Like, from the basis of being two virgins that are committed to waiting till marriage, like from the boundaries purity perspective, or maybe just from communication and clarity and removing confusion, or maybe it's from the importance of mentors and having authority and accountability in your life, or maybe it's you start off in sacred, not in secret, but like doing things sacred with just a small group of people that deserve to speak into your life and have worth to speak into your life. Maybe you can learn something from the way we've done our story and the way we've done this. We're growing every single day. We're learning every single day. We're going to talk a lot more, I think, in the questions and lessons portion, how I'm growing and learning every day. There were a lot of insecurities that I faced. I felt like a failure a lot. He did a really good job reminding me that I wasn't. But going through this for the first time ever in my life, and feeling like a baby, quite honestly, because it's true. Like, I'm the rookie, he's the vet. Like, I joke about it, and he's like, no. But I'm like, but that's the truth. Like, you've done this before and I haven't. Maybe you've done it differently, sure, but it's still nonetheless, like, I've never done any of this. And so just being able to learn and like him give me grace through that and patience through that, but also at the same time, like, not just let me lollygag and avoid conversations. Like, oh no, he led. Don't think anything else. Like, he's been like, okay, let's talk about this now. It's time. And being able to, let me process some things, but also be like a man and also address things when they need to be addressed. Like he said, like, he left church in the middle of it and was like, no, we're talking now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's just one example. But I think we're really excited to talk more about even the boundaries. We didn't even talk about the first conversation we had about boundaries. But that was very pivotal for me too. So we have so much more to touch on the questions and lessons and future podcast episodes down the road. Because I'm so excited to have him now be a part of this ministry and come alongside me for the ride. And he's already been so pivotal from day one of when we met and just supporting Play Where Your Feet Are, and whether it was buying merch or showing up at birthday parties for the business or getting friends in it, his mom wearing merch back in the day, like so many different things that he's been able to support behind the scenes. And now you get to see him from the front lines leading with me and helping run play dates and helping in so many different ways that truly just help me, which is huge as an independent woman like myself. Having a little extra hand here and there is so amazing. So, Eli, thanks for helping on the pod, and I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you.
Okay, well, y'all go ahead and stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, just make sure you follow us on @PlayWhereYourFeet on Instagram, and of course, you can look up playwhereyourfeet.com for all the things about merch, books, podcasts, of course. We've got play dates, mini retreats, camps, clinics, and so much more. We love you guys. Till next time, be blessed and play where your feet are.